back from Las Vegas after interviewing for a second time for the Raiders head coaching job, knowing that Buffalo was targeting him. And the Bills never got to a round of second interviews with their candidates. They brought in a slew of candidates over the weekend to Florida, met with them all, and after meeting with everybody in the first round, decided that they had seen enough, that Joe Brady was their head coach in waiting, and they've officially worked out a 5-year deal to bring him on as their head coach.
All right, tons of news to get to today. Adam is with us all show long. Excellent pullover, by the way, a little Masters pullover by Adam. I love it. We'll get to we'll get to Brian Daboll and that hiring by the Titans. Mike McCarthy being introduced by the Steelers. That's coming right just a little bit. Dan, Mina, Marcus here. Marcus, what do you think of Buffalo hiring Joe Brady as their new head coach?
I think it makes sense. Boogie, we asked this question a couple of days ago, I think, on our show. What about Joe Brady with these head coaching candidacies and trying to figure out what was the holdup? A young, bright offensive mind working with a quarterback that was league MVP last year. It makes sense coming out of Buffalo. It's going to be about who he hires, how he delegates positions around this organization. But it's one critical point that I want everybody to remember, and we talked about this when Sean McDermott was let go. This is about a Super Bowl. So I'm not sure if anybody walks into a head coaching job with much more pressure than Joe Brady does. With Josh Allen, with what this city has gone through, this organization and franchise, and might I add, they building a new stadium, and implications come with that as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they go forward with his hires and the things that he does in order to kind of change what Buffalo had become under Sean McDermott, with keeping some of the successful things that were about this organization as well. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a guy in the building and knows the direction where this organization wants to go. So it makes sense. Now it's about Joe Brady and if he can be a really good head coach while also continuing to keep Josh Allen on this trend of being the player that he is.
He was the one guy in the building they could not lose. The track record of offensive success under him in Buffalo speaks for itself. The development and growth of Josh, the offensive line, and James Cook speaks for itself. Having been around Joe Brady a little bit, just calling Monday Night Football games, number one, obsesses about details. Obsesses, maniacal about it. Number two, obsesses about urgency. And then the third thing, and this was really one of the telling things this past season for Monday Night, was the character of the football team, the fabric of the football team is something that he truly, truly, truly believes in. He would get upset when the team would score a touchdown and the player would celebrate by himself. It was almost a rule that you had to give the ball to a lineman because you didn't score that touchdown without them. And so this is a small margin of error in Buffalo to get better than Sean McDermott. I can say this. This dude can flat out coach, and he's got a lot of obsessive traits that good coaches have. Reports of Jim Leonard as his defensive coordinator, that would be a massive get. And now the question becomes, who's going to be the offensive line coach? Because Aaron Kromer, who's one of the best in the league over the past years, has retired.
Mina?
Oh, I was told Shefty wanted to jump in. Sorry.
Oh, all right.
Would he like to
you know
jump
what?
in here?
We're not hearing from Shefty, so go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
Okay, well, Dan brought up the name Jim Leonard, who is the Broncos pass game coordinator on defense, and he is going to be a leading candidate. Okay. There's a process that they still have to go through before they would get to hire him, but that would be a logical defensive coordinator in time, a huge addition to the Buffalo staff. We'll see if it happens, but they obviously have a number of interviews to get through before they could hire him, but that is somebody that I would pay close attention to in this process.
Yeah, I would love that. To go back to Dan's initial point about them not wanting to lose Joe Brady, I can't help but think the Bills and maybe some other teams in the future looked at what happened in Tampa and saw Liam Cohen walk out that door and wonder if they might have similar regrets that I do feel a lot of people in Tampa have now, watching the success Cohen had too, leaving for Jacksonville. And I think in and of itself, like just focusing on Brady, that does make sense. His offense was good this year. It was fourth in DVOA, third in EPA per play, despite some pretty significant limitations at receiver. I think that's where I get a little bit, I wouldn't say critical of the Brady hire, but more so the total process, because the things, when I point to the offense and I say they were held back, well, they promoted the GM. So in totality, the moves to me do feel a bit like scapegoating Sean McDermott, which, you know, he's the kind of the odd man out here. But I do understand the desire to have offensive continuity given how good this offense is. And then to go back to the defensive coordinator, I would love that just because, you know, since you're sticking with your offensive play caller and your GM, you want to have some fresh voices in the building. And that, to me, would be the opportunity there on defense. Leonard has been the defensive pass game coordinator, in Denver, where the pass defense has been both successful and extremely creative. That creativity goes back to college, Wisconsin as well. So if they were to pull that off, I think then you start to feel good about, okay, we're, you know, sustaining the momentum on offense, but also trying some new things on defense. Personnel, to me, remains the biggest issue, though, with this football team.
Yeah, what the reality is, I'm not worried about defense because this hire was made for Josh Allen. And when you move forward as a football team, when it's Joe Brady and Josh Allen, this is going to be all about them and the success of this football team. If they don't have that success, we're not going to talk about the defense. We will on this show because we'll break film down. But the overall narrative will be about Joe Brady and Josh Allen, and this was supposed to be a level up from Sean McDermott. MK, you and Dan and RC and I were sitting on here like, I don't know if I like this move getting rid of Sean McDermott, which is why I alluded to the pressure that Joe Brady is under taking over as the head coach. Yep. Look, I just don't want people to be mistaken that this is going to be about some revival with Jim Leonard and the defense. We will not talk about that if this team does not have success. We will talk about this marriage between Joe Brady and Josh Allen and this team going further in the playoffs, because that's what the hire is about. We all acknowledge that when this happened with Sean McDermott. Will the margins change, and will this team be in an AFC championship and a Super Bowl in the next 2 years? I'm giving them 2 because year one, some things may happen. But that is what this is about. That's why I think Joe Brady, out of all of the new head coaches that are being announced, is under the most pressure to win the big one or play in the Super Bowl, and it's going to be directly correlated with him and Josh Allen.
This was a pressure-filled job no matter who was going to get it. I agree with that. The Bills, by the way, you guys are mentioning how good the offense has been with Joe Brady. They're 31-10, averaging 29.1 points per game since promoting Brady to offensive coordinator in Week 11 of 2023. So it's not all about that, though, as Marcus said, because they've got to win championships. All right, more coaching news to get to. Coming out of Tennessee, Adam, what's the latest there?
Well, Laura, Brian Daboll did not get the Buffalo Bills head coaching job. He's still up for the Raiders head coaching job, though they haven't hired him. And that would tell you that it doesn't seem like it's going in his direction. And if he doesn't get the Raiders head coaching job, he is set to become the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, where he would get to work with Cam Ward, the quarterback that the Giants tried desperately to trade up to draft before the draft last year. Couldn't get it done. Brian Daboll didn't get a chance to trade for him last year, but now would be joining forces with the new Titans head coach Robert Saleh in Tennessee. And that would mean that it would be New York, with 2 former New York head coaches, Saleh and Daboll, in Tennessee to try to turn around the Titans and elevate Cam Ward's performance.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like this hire a lot. Daboll's shown the ability, right, to work with some young up-and-coming quarterbacks in his last few stops. He was the Bills offensive coordinator for Josh Allen's first 4 seasons in the league. We saw success there. In his first season with the Giants, he inherited Daniel Jones, made the playoffs. And then, of course, there was Jackson Dart, so you know about that and what he was able to do with him. But he threw 15 touchdowns, 5 picks. Earlier in his career, he was a quarterback coach for Brett Favre during his Jets season. I'm not sure many people even remember that. But, Dan, do you like this fit?
Oh, I really like the fit. Kind of to the points that Shefty and you made. One, I like the fact that Saleh has somebody else who's been a head coach, you know, so like there's the ability to be the head coach of the defense in many ways and then head coach of offense. 2, Brian Daboll's track record for the young quarterbacks, Laura, you pointed out, speaks for itself. The big thing for Brian Daboll is continuing to push Cam Ward to slightly calm some of the loose mechanics down and not take away his special talents. If he can find that sweet spot where you're not trying to coach the magic out of him, special out of him, and you could just really get him to be more consistent, then you've got a really, really, really high-end player. If he could do that, I like it.
Yeah, I echo a lot of those sentiments. I think the thing that I like about this, and that would give me some encouragement if I'm a Titans fan, is not only has he coached a number of different young quarterbacks, he's completely altered his offense to fit the skills of each of them, right? Going back to Buffalo, we talk a lot about Josh Allen's development, but y'all remember that offense, that was all gas. The 10 personnel, throwing a lot, getting him to become a more disciplined quarterback in that process as well. And then, of course, the QB run element. Then in New York, Daniel Jones's best season, although to this, he also had a great season, obviously, in Indianapolis, but to that point, wildly different. The boots, the designed quarterback runs, lots of zone reads. That offense did not throw down the field at a high rate. He wanted Daniel Jones to protect the football and to compensate for the offensive line. And then to Jackson Darts and differences as well. There's through lines. You'll see a lot of RPOs, I think, and I imagine that'll continue with Cam Ward. Some college principles as well. But I think just for me, that flexibility from quarterback to quarterback is what is most appealing, because you don't want a coach to come in with this young quarterback and say, this is my offense, you're going to have to play this way. He's going to have to tailor it to the skills of Cam Ward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Tennessee play next year. I think this was a major move for this organization. And think about it. The coach that they let go is about to play in the Super Bowl that we're about to go cover in San Francisco. So when you look at Robert Saleh, y'all know I'm a huge fan of him and what he did, not only with the Jets, but in San Francisco with that defense and what he was able, how those guys competed. Sometimes you look at the response of players more so than the X's and O's. And I think these are two guys that gets the response out of players to elevate them not only as football players with development, but also give them a reason every week to go out and compete at the highest level. I think, honestly, that's the most successful trait of a really good head coach, is that these guys will run through a brick wall for you, or a coach leading a unit. Brian Daboll, I've known him since he was at Alabama. Boogie, you've known him. We know he's fiery, but guys love playing for him. And Robert Saleh, to me, seems like the antithesis of a guy that football players love to be around and want to max out as players around him. They have two cornerstones as well. Dan, I heard you talk all season about Cam Ward and how talented you think he is. So Brian Daboll developing Cam Ward, based on what you've talked about and what we've seen, he can become one of those guys that you believe can be a franchise leader. Okay. And the cornerstone on defense that Robert Saleh is working with is Jeffrey Simmons, a guy that is phenomenal, a great leader. He plays one of what y'all know the most important position for me on defense right now. So it's not like you're walking into a situation where you're going to look around the locker room and not identify that we already have a lot of the makeup to be a successful football team. So I love this. Two former head coaches, two guys that I think get guys to play for them beyond the X's and O's. And I think that part is going to pay major dividends for the Tennessee Titans, especially coming off this redo that they had that didn't look so successful in the beginning.
Yeah, Cam Ward's not going to shy away from intensity either. He wants to be great. We saw that a few times even this year at the podium after he felt like the team fell short. Guys, it's been an action-packed day of news. We've still got a lot more to get to, and there could be more breaking. Adam Schefter is with us all show just in case that happens. Mike McCarthy formally introduced in the Steel City today. And while the quarterback question is looming, may not be the biggest decision facing the Steelers. Stick around to hear what Dan says about that, where there's plenty of work to do. Plus, in just one season, the Patriots flipped the script. How did they get back to their winning ways so fast? Mina says it's this on NFL Live, and a new era begins in Pittsburgh today as Mike McCarthy officially introduced as the Steelers head coach, the fourth in franchise history. Remarkable, right? So what does a new voice mean for the Standard in Steel City? Let's hear from Mike McCarthy.
I mean, definitely. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. But, I think just like anything, knowing Aaron long enough, going through seasons, I think when players, to see Mel Blunt here, I mean, when guys are up at that stage of their career, they need to step away and decompress it. I think that's very important. And, and I have spoken to Aaron, and so that's really where we are there. But I was able to sit back and watch the games. I watched most of the Pittsburgh games on TV, and I thought he was a great asset for the team. Yeah, definitely. I will call the plays on offense, and so that obviously will run the offense. But these coaching staff, it's a bigger challenge each and every year. And I just think there's more moving parts to it. But it's been very fluid the last 48 hours. So.
Hey, so a lot of interesting in there, and we'll get to all of it. Play caller, he's spoken to Aaron Rodgers. Marcus, I'll come to you first. You think Rodgers coming back to Pittsburgh would be the right move if it happens?
I mean, based on where Pittsburgh is now, what other choice do they have? Look, I'm going to keep this brief. Mike McCarthy, congratulations. It's phenomenal. You're back in the league. You're a head coach. If they don't figure out this quarterback position for the future, we're going to be having the same conversation next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. The one thing coaches don't get banners for, what Phil Jackson banner up there? Because Michael Jordan next to him, and Kobe Bryant next to him. And if he's talking about winning championships, like he did in Green Bay, with one of the best quarterbacks ever, when he walked into Dallas, he won 12 games per year with Dak Prescott, one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Got to figure it out in Pittsburgh. That's my question.
Sorry. That's a great question. Mina, what do you make of McCarthy's decision to take over play calling in Pittsburgh? Because that was something we were kind of wondering about even yesterday.
Look, Mike McCarthy last called plays in Dallas, and he did a good job. It was a good offense with Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott's a very good quarterback in the prime of his career. That matters. They had CeeDee Lamb, obviously. Yesterday, when we talked about this news, the Mike McCarthy news, I said, let's withhold judgment because I liked the idea of him coming in as a CEO type and them not doing a full rebuild, but a reset, right? Like not just trying to go all in and do more of the same, going younger at quarterback, trying to bring in maybe a new offensive mind and trusting that McCarthy could oversee it all. That doesn't sound like it's what's happening, though. I said, let's withhold judgment, but now I'm starting to feel it's increasingly the language coming out of Pittsburgh sounds more like run it back and tread water. So I know Marcus makes a good point. They don't have a ton of options at quarterback. They're obviously not picking high in the draft, and there aren't many, options out there for them. But if I was a Steelers fan, I would be pretty unenthused, by the idea that the offense looks anything like it did last season, quite frankly.
Yeah, I still believe that this is a prime place for Malik Willis. Whether Rodgers is there or not, it's probably a hefty investment for a free agent quarterback if Rodgers is back. But at some point, that has to be a part of your future. I understand Will Howard is there, their draft pick in the 5th round last year out of Ohio State. Malik's going to command a lot of money. This is what I would say about Pittsburgh as well. We talked about them and Coach McCarthy in the quarterback spot. If Aaron's back or not, they need more and better receivers. This is an offense. Mike McCarthy, his offense needs receivers. This is a offense that was one guy and tight ends. One guy, tight ends and backs. They need more wideouts in Pittsburgh.
Dan, I just want to echo, I love the Malik Willis idea because I like how he jives with the current build. I agree they need more receivers, for sure.
Yeah.
But if you can tell me, okay, this is an offense with a young, ascendant offensive line, a good run game.
Yep.
You throw in a quarterback who's a dual threat, whose best ball is a go ball, and you have an elite go ball receiver in DK Metcalf. That's something to build off of. You do need more receiver talent, no doubt. But I love how he would fit with the current offense. Now, I will add one more thing. That's not an offense that we've seen Mike McCarthy call, right?
100%.
Like, that's a very different stylistically from what we've seen from him. But I like the idea of them focusing not, like, you don't want to say, this is Mike McCarthy's offense, let's get someone who can execute it. Focus on the quarterback, not the play caller.
Yeah, and again, you guys mentioned they likely can't find a quarterback in the draft. That's because they had the 21st overall pick in the draft. There's not going to be a quarterback there that would probably be worth it.
Same thing they've been doing the last 7 years. That's the same old thing,
right? Exactly. That's deja vu for Steelers fans. We got more coming your way here on NFL Live. When we come back, more head coach introductions. Kevin Stefanski stepped to the mic for the first time as the Falcons head coach. And, of course, he was asked about that quarterback position there. Dan says one option gives them the best chance to win. You're going to want to hear this after the break. We'll be right back.
fantastic. I've enjoyed it. My kids played it growing up. I loved being a part of it, helping coach it. I think it does a great job of allowing people to develop not only physically but mentally, right? What are other players doing? What are they capable of doing? What should they be looking at? Where should they find focus? Where they shouldn't? I'm just a huge fan of it. I'm excited for it. Obviously, Indianapolis hosting this event, my heart and soul there in Indiana, and what just happened at IU to go ahead and hoist that trophy and that championship. Man, Indianapolis is hitting it big right now, and congrats to them and congrats to flag football in 2026.
I love it. I love, too, the way that it's allowed girls to get involved in the game. Just really special, Jeff. And take a look at the regional tournaments that will be held throughout the spring. The winners, of course, will earn their way to the flag championships and a chance to compete at the Droplight Grand Park Sports Campus. Back to the breaking news of the day. A lot of it starting in Tennessee, where the Titans are set to hire former Giants head coach Brian Daboll as their offensive coordinator, this being contingent upon him not getting the Raiders head coaching job. Daboll, known for quarterback development, now takes on his next challenge in the Titans' top overall pick, Cam Ward. And to Buffalo, where the Bills have promoted offensive coordinator Joe Brady to head coach on a 5-year deal. Brady replaces Sean McDermott, who was fired last week after the Bills were eliminated in the AFC divisional round of the playoffs. Let's bring Jeff back in here. Jeff, you like the Joe Brady hire for the Bills?
I do. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't overly surprised by this one. I think when you look at the arrows in which everything was pointing, I think it makes total sense, right? Brady's been there, has a strong relationship with Josh Allen. He's been in his ear. He's kind of come through the ranks, QB coach under Ken Dorsey, then went to the OC, and now obviously is the head coach. I will say, though, this is a big ask. I mean, I know everybody's going to be excited and throwing flowers today and congratulations to Brady, but these are tough shoes to fill. You think about when Sean McDermott took this thing over, it wasn't like they were winning. Now they're one of the most winning franchises in the NFL, and they've won playoff games. The only thing they haven't won is the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. So the ask isn't let's just get there. The ask is we got to win. And so Joe Brady has his work cut out for him, hiring making sure whoever his DC is going to be, who his offensive coordinator is going to be, because even if he's calling plays, somebody has to come in for install. I worked with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers my final year in football when he was the head coach and the play caller, but Tom Clements basically installed everything. So finding the right fit for that, all of those things are going to have to be situated here in the next few weeks to get this thing off and running for OTAs, which are just right around the corner.
Yeah, and as Adam Schefter's reported throughout all of this, we've heard other people talk about this as well. Josh Allen, a big part of all the coach interviews, a lot of the behind the scenes, ultimately didn't make the final decision, but we know that relationship was a big piece of this. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Absolutely. Have a great one.
The Falcons held their introductory press conference for new head coach Kevin Stefanski today. No real surprise that he was asked at length about his two quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr.
I will tell you, obviously, Michael is somebody I'm very excited about, and his rehab is what's most important right now. And I saw him in the training room this week. He's, as you can imagine, attacking his rehab. And then when it comes to Kirk, obviously I have a previous relationship with Kirk, but I don't know if it's the time yet to talk about all positions and those type of things, but those type of conversations will come in due time.
Dan, how should Stefanski approach this quarterback position in Atlanta?
Try to get Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
Michael Penix is, yes, talented, and there's been moments that he's had success, but the performance on the field hasn't said, yup, home run pick. There's been some good, and then there's been some not so good. Doesn't give the ball away a ton, but a lack of consistency. I think the second thing is the injury history is real. And he tore his ACL this past year. When is he going to be healthy enough? And then for the Cousins edition, I know that there's been reworking of the contract and the past history. I'm of the belief Kirk Cousins is the starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons this coming fall. This team should win 11 games under Kevin Stefanski. Because if it's not Kirk, then it's probably somebody like Mac Jones, but it's going to cost a team without a first-round pick a certain pick to San Francisco. I'm sure San Francisco wants to try and keep him, do everything he can, but I think it's going to be Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. It starts there.
Yeah, I think as far as Penix Jr. goes, look, he's not out of the running. You give him the opportunity to show that he can work his way back, and also the opportunity to show that he can play from under center.
Yeah.
To me, that's a deal breaker for Kevin Stefanski. Join this team if you can't play under, and give him the opportunity, right? Like, I want to see this quarter because it's such an important part when I think about Kevin Stefanski's offense and what it could potentially do for Bijan Robinson, who I think will flourish in it. You know, the foundation of it is the under center outside zone play action off of that. But you really saw that run game also evolve in Cleveland to the point where it's not just outside zone. I would argue it's more diverse than what they've run in Atlanta. And I think that's exciting. And I think they have the skill players to pull it off. But for the quarterback to fit into this picture, they must be able to play under center.
Yeah.
So you want to see that from Penix Jr. You saw it from Kirk Cousins when he came back, by the way, the second time around. You want to see continued health in that regard. But to me, Dan, that's going to be what's important here, is finding a quarterback who fits the system.
MK, totally agree. And I wouldn't take it off the table for Atlanta to use a relatively high pick on a quarterback. If you're Kevin Stefanski and you just had your experience that you just had in Cleveland, I understand it. They don't have their first rounder. But you don't have... You have the experience of the past where you were just floating through quarterbacks, and you're Matt Ryan, and you're sitting there with this new role, and it's like, okay, I've got this older player, Kirk Cousins, that obviously can still play, but he is older, and he does have the injury, not too distant himself, and then a younger player that's unproven and unhealthy. The last thing you want to do with this hire of Kevin Stefanski is place him in a relatively quarterback situation that he just had in Cleveland without a long-term high-end plan.
That's interesting.
I just wouldn't be surprised by it.
Yeah, it was interesting, too, you guys. We had the Falcons on Monday Night Football against the Rams for the latter part of the season, and Kirk Cousins was very candid about, he's like, I'm going to be out of here. I'm not going to be here. Now, obviously, things have changed dramatically since then, but I'll be fascinated to see how he feels about sticking around. I think Stefanski may have to recruit him, so to speak, a little bit. All right, let's get to L.A., where the Chargers introduced Mike McDaniel as the team's new OC. Today, he was asked about his plans for Justin Herbert. Here's what he said.
There's a lot of incredible plays that Justin has made. He's firmly capable, and sometimes as a coach, you can rely upon that a little too much. It can be taxing over time for a player to necessitate an incredible play too often to be able to score points and win football games. So you try to take it off of him by creating some low-cost, high-reward offense that, he's firmly capable of doing.
Marcus, what does McDaniel need to change in order to get the best out of Justin Herbert?
Well, look, I'll let Dan talk about horizontal motion and pre-snap motion and all of those things that Mike McDaniel does. But one thing that I am super excited for Mike McDaniel about is the fact that he got a quarterback that can make secondary plays. And I know he's just coming off a soundbite where he say Justin Herbert don't need to make the extraordinary plays. A lot of times in Miami, that is what was missing, right? We know this guy can call plays. We know he can manufacture yards. This team had a revival. When they were left for dead, they still competed at a high level, which says a lot about how he was able to get these guys to play, him and Anthony Weaver. Let me give him credit as well. But ultimately, now having Justin Herbert, anybody would be excited about, but play breakdown, secondary plays, use your legs, extending plays. He's afforded that now, which I think makes him more dangerous as an offensive coordinator, knowing that his quarterback at times may bail him out of a situation, even though he feels like he has the perfect thing dialed up. Dan, go ahead, because I know you can't wait to talk about this marriage.
Yeah, you're right. Right now, today, with this addition as a play caller, on paper, this will be a top 5 offense in the NFL. There's no question about it. When we're talking about, if healthy, the talent that they have, the quarterback that they have in the scheme. Number 2, Justin Herbert went from being the most hit quarterback in football. He will go to being one of the least hit quarterbacks in football. We got to remember, Mike McDaniel just experienced having to build this offense around one of the realities with Tua is don't get him hit, don't get him hit, don't get him hit. And Justin just experienced, and partly because of the injuries, just getting destroyed this year. So if you're Justin Herbert, you now have a scheme and a play caller that actually, because of the situation, has placed an emphasis. Look at the amount of hits Tua took, less than Justin Herbert, and the percentage, okay? So that is great for Herbert. I think again, we're in January, so this is a process, but if there was the one thing that would have to be proven by Justin is you have to trust the play call more so than your ability to go make a play. You know, Mike designs these plays, and you just have to trust it's open. Like, it'll get there, and you got to see it before it happens, and anticipation and some touch throws and windows. rather than you're so talented, you'll make the play. That's going to take some time. He's plenty good enough to get there. Once he does, take off.
You know, you remember in Harbaugh's first season with Herbert, just how much he pumped Herbert up, how much he talked about how great he is. He obviously still did that last season, but there's been a little bit of a remaking of the confidence and some of that just ability to go out there and be great. Yeah, go ahead, Swag.
Dio, we obviously know that this is Mike McDaniel coming from Shanahan's system. And to your point, we talked about Brock Purdy with his anticipation. We talked about that was Tua's superpower is getting the ball out on time and in rhythm. How long do you think it's going to take Justin Herbert to do that, to accomplish that?
I don't think Justin will ever anticipate throws the way that Brock Purdy does and has, and same with Tua, because he's got 10 years of not needing to. Those guys have to because they don't have the arm power and the revolution power that Justin does. But you definitely want to see him do it more. And Marcus, for me, it's, you know, I played under Kyle. I was in this offense. You get to a point where the coach just gets the player to sit there and go, just trust that that guy is going to be open. You don't have to wait for him and see him open. It's more of a trust thing, more so than a repetition thing. Once he trusts that that guy will be there, he'll cut it loose. But I don't believe he's ever going to be that floated over a defender anticipation thrower like those guys. He doesn't have to be. He's got the Howlets, or he'll throw it through windows rather than over them.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because Herbert obviously is a key piece in this, but I'm excited for a guy like Ladd McConkey, Omarion Hampton, some of these players that really should flourish in this McDaniel offense. Coming up next, a complete rebuild in New England took the Patriots from 4 wins to a spot in the Super Bowl in 1 year. Coming up, Mike Reese joining us live from Foxborough to take us through the culture shift that has the Pats on the verge of another Lombardi. We'll be right back.
I feel like I was just able to know guys on a deeper level in that aspect.
I'll give you an example of that caring and connection that happened just yesterday. Patriots get back from Denver around 4:30 in the afternoon. They had been staying overnight, delayed. Big snow here, Laura. And they get back and all their cars were cleared off so they could just get right in them and leave. Mike Vrabel actually starting his press conference today, thanking the parking attendants for creating that for the players.
That's amazing. I mean, that starts with the top, right? The Kraft family wants that type of care throughout their organization, and we're seeing why they continue to be so great. Thanks so much to Mike Reese for the latest there. And it's interesting, Dan, because you heard some of that there from the players, but it's been documented that Vrabel had to sort of make himself a little bit vulnerable with these guys so they felt comfortable. A leader of men comes into the fold here, and the culture shift happens. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it just feels very early 2000s Patriots. The game in the AFC title game felt that way, certainly against Houston as well. And what Mike Vrabel has done this year, it's not hyperbole, is historical. There has been one coach in the history of the NFL that has done what he's done. Guess who it is? Bill Belichick, somehow. So what is this? This is saying is a coach took over a team, and that team had 5 or fewer wins the season previous, and within that first 2 years, Belichick did it in his second year. Vrabel obviously has done it in his first, takes him to the Super Bowl. I have no idea how this happened in New England again.
That's crazy.
But the fact that and when you look at it, because I remember a week or two ago, we detailed and documented the Houston rebuild.
Yeah.
It was about a 3-year rebuild.
Right.
This is really a 1-year rebuild. I think Mike Vrabel's been the head coach in New England for about 400 days. They have acquired so much talent in that window, but also wins. The fact that he's got them in the Super Bowl, it's historical.
Well, and you can acquire talent, right, but maybe they're not the right fit. Maybe they're not going to come together as a group of men that's going to go on a run to make it to the Super Bowl. That part of it, I think, is remarkable. The other thing, too, it took some boldness, right, for them to move on from Mayo and needed to do it, but 100%. Then to bring in Vrabel after just 1 year of the Mayo regime. It's amazing to think what they've done, and, of course, it feels like they're only just getting started. We'll see.